There was a time when going to Walmart was one of the simplest things you could do in America. You saw the price, put the item in your cart, checked out, and went home. No guessing, no double-checking. For decades, Walmart made just one promise: help Americans save money. Beep. Everything changed. The familiar paper price tag started disappearing. Cameras began showing up everywhere. More and more merchandise was locked behind glass. And before 2026 comes to an end, Walmart will complete the rollout of electronic shelf labels in roughly 4,500 stores across the United States. But those electronic price tags are only the beginning. When you put everything that's happened over the past few years together, you'll understand why more and more Americans believe Walmart has officially crossed the line. If there's one change millions of Americans notice the moment they walk into Walmart today, it isn't the electronic price tags. It's the locked display cases. At first, hardly anyone paid attention. Razors were locked up. Baby formula was locked up. Cigarettes were locked up. That seemed reasonable. High-value items have always been targets for theft. But then the list started growing. Cosmetics, vitamins, batteries, perfume, laundry products. And then came the things no one ever expected to see behind locked glass. A steak, a rotisserie chicken, a jar of face cream, a pair of reading glasses, a pair of gloves that cost just a few dollars, even a comb. That's when many shoppers started asking the same question. Since when do you need a key to buy an ordinary item? This isn't something happening at just one store. According to the National Retail Federation, retailers across the United States have expanded locked merchandise to more product categories in recent years as inventory shrink, and organized retail crime have increased. What used to be reserved for expensive electronics has now spread to everyday essentials. Walmart isn't the only chain doing it. Target, CVS, Walgreens. Many major retailers are moving in the same direction. But Walmart is the largest retailer in America. When Walmart changes, millions of shoppers feel it immediately. And the real impact isn't just the locks, it's the experience. More and more videos on YouTube show the exact same scene. A customer stands in front of a locked case, presses the call button, then waits. Some wait 5 minutes. Some wait 10. Some walk away because they've simply run out of patience. Even employees are constantly rushing from one department to another with a ring full of keys, unlocking one case after another for each customer. Walmart says these measures are intended to reduce inventory shrink and protect merchandise. That's a completely understandable goal. But from the shopper's point of view, the end result feels very different. The people causing the problem are the thieves. But the ones paying the price in time and inconvenience are honest customers. That's exactly what has started changing the way many people feel. Walmart built an empire on one very simple advantage: faster, more convenient, easier to shop. Today, plenty of people still go to Walmart because of the prices, but they no longer feel like shopping there is as simple as it used to be. And maybe that's the part worth thinking about the most. A store that once transformed retail through convenience now turns buying even a small everyday item into a test of patience. More and more American shoppers are stopping at the checkout to read every line on their receipt, compare prices at the scanner, or even take products home and weigh them again. But it's important to understand what's really happening. They're not doing it because they want to. They're doing it because they no longer automatically trust. And maybe that's the biggest change of all. Walmart didn't shake customers' trust because of a few receipts. Walmart is changing a habit that had existed for decades, from trust first, then buy, to buy first, then verify. To understand why this crack runs so deep, we have to look at the scale of the system. A Walmart supercenter carries an average of about 120,000 different items. Every week, more than 255 million customer visits pass through the doors of roughly 4,500 stores across the country. In a system that massive, even rare mistakes can affect a great number of shoppers, and that's when we realize an unspoken truth. Years ago, a price was something everyone could see on a label. Today, a price is first and foremost a piece of data inside a system. What's interesting is that the cost of verifying that data hasn't disappeared. It has simply been shifted to someone else. In the past, the store was responsible for making sure everything was accurate. Today, customers have to take on that responsibility themselves. They pay that cost with their own time, with uncertainty, and by comparing prices and taking photos to protect their own wallets. Walmart didn't set out to turn its customers into auditors, but that's exactly what's happening. Customers now have to read their receipts, compare scanner prices, and weigh products themselves to verify that the system is being honest. Walmart says digitizing its pricing system helps reduce errors and saves millions of labor hours every year. From an operational standpoint, that's a completely reasonable move. But from the consumer's point of view, the picture looks very different. When prices become data, the thing shoppers want most is no longer just a low price. It's knowing that the number in front of them is still a number they can trust. Because the scariest part isn't a single incorrect receipt. The scariest part is the moment millions of Americans begin to feel they have to check every receipt before they leave Walmart. And if millions of Americans have already started questioning prices even while they're still printed on paper shelf tags, what happens when those tags exist only as a line of data that can be changed with just a few clicks? And Walmart's answer to that growing skepticism, ironically, is a new wave of technology: electronic shelf labels, better known as ESLs. The company has announced that it will complete the rollout of these e-ink shelf labels across its entire store network. Walmart says this will eliminate millions of hours of manual labor and reduce errors during price updates. From an operational standpoint, it's a completely reasonable move. Just look at the scale of the change. For a supercenter carrying as many as 120,000 items, updating prices by hand could once take days and require dozens of employees walking every aisle. Today, with the new system, that entire process can be completed in just minutes from a central control room. Shoppers see efficiency, and the business sees optimization. But from the perspective of many economists, what's even more significant is that this technology also greatly reduces one of the core elements of traditional retail: friction. Some analysts describe it as the disappearance of physical friction in pricing. In the past, the biggest barrier to constantly changing prices was the real operational cost. To update a price, stores had to print new tags, remove the old ones, and send employees to replace them. That physical cost unintentionally acted as a natural brake, forcing retailers to think carefully before changing a price by even a few cents. Today, ESLs dramatically reduce that physical barrier to updating prices. When the cost of changing a price falls to almost zero, many experts believe businesses have far more flexibility in how they respond to market conditions. And maybe that's the truly historic shift. Walmart is moving from a traditional brick-and-mortar retail model to software-driven retail. In the past, changing a price meant changing something physical. Today, it means changing software. A paper price tag used to be a commitment until the next scheduled price change. An electronic shelf label is a price that can be updated at virtually any time. The number shoppers see on the shelf is still just a number, but behind that number is now a system that can be updated more quickly than ever before. Customers, however, see it through a different lens. When prices become data, the biggest concern is no longer just getting a low price. It's knowing that the number in front of them is still a number they can trust. And it's that ability to change prices almost instantly that has sparked a much bigger debate. Will this technology simply help stores operate more efficiently? Or will it change the way prices themselves are determined in the future? The scariest thing about electronic shelf labels was never the label itself. It was the speed they make possible. That ability to change prices in an instant has pushed American consumers into a much bigger debate: dynamic pricing and surveillance pricing. The words surveillance pricing may sound like an internet conspiracy theory, but in reality, it's a serious legal issue. Serious enough that the U.S. Federal Trade Commission has launched a broad investigation into major retailers over how they use algorithms to set prices. Most people already understand the idea behind dynamic pricing from Uber or the airlines. Fares automatically jump during rush hour or when it starts raining. But the moment you bring that same model into a grocery store selling everyday essentials, the conversation becomes far more sensitive. That's what has made this debate so intense. People have started worrying about a future where they buy a carton of milk at 5 o'clock during the evening rush, only to discover that the price has automatically gone up at checkout simply because the store is crowded. It's important to be clear. That's a scenario consumers worry about, not something Walmart says it is doing. But the reason people are concerned comes down to the type of products involved. You can choose not to take an Uber when it's raining and simply wait. But you can't tell your child to skip milk just because the grocery store is busy. With surveillance pricing, the concerns go even further. Researchers and regulators worry that future systems could collect and combine personal data, from shopping habits to purchase history, to show the highest price the system predicts. A particular group of customers is still willing to pay. That concern has become so significant that states including New York, Maryland, and Rhode Island have considered legislation to regulate pricing algorithms and protect consumers. At the same time, the fact that several other major U.S. companies have been sued in federal court over allegations of using software to secretly coordinate fuel prices has made the public more sensitive than ever to any new pricing technology. Cases like these have only made consumers more cautious and skeptical of any new pricing technology. In response to the growing skepticism, Walmart has repeatedly said that its electronic shelf labels are not designed to change prices for individual shoppers or in real time inside its stores. According to Walmart, the technology is simply meant to respond more quickly to inflation and compete with online retailers like Amazon. And to be completely fair, as of today, there is no public evidence that Walmart is using real-time personalized pricing in its stores. What technology is capable of doing and how a company chooses to use that technology are two completely different things. And it's the gap between those two realities that has created today's debate. Rolling out electronic shelf labels across the entire store network means Walmart has built an infrastructure that allows prices to be updated much faster than before. Technology creates the capability. How far that capability is actually used is ultimately a matter of company policy and operational decisions. The biggest concern for consumers right now isn't the e-ink label sitting on the shelf. It's the feeling that the rules of the game have changed, and that the system behind the shelves knows far too much about them. If prices are becoming smarter, then the next question is no longer, does the system know the price? It's, does the system know who you are? And to answer that question, we first have to understand what data Walmart actually collects every time a customer walks through those automatic doors. If data is the fuel that powers algorithms, then the next question is simple. Where does Walmart get all that data? Recently, A story shared on American retail forums caught a lot of attention. One customer said he deliberately turned off his phone's location services, never opened the Walmart app, walked into the store, bought a USB charging cable, and paid entirely in cash to protect his privacy. But that same evening, when he opened his computer, he found an email from Walmart asking him to review the exact USB cable he had just purchased. That story raised concerns for many consumers. However, in today's retail ecosystems, different types of data can be connected for operational purposes, as long as doing so complies with applicable regulations. If you've ever left any kind of digital footprint in the past, such as signing up for electronic receipts, using a previous payment method, or creating an online account, the system may be able to connect those separate pieces of information. The reality is that Walmart today is no longer just a chain of physical stores. The company operates a massive ecosystem that includes its e-commerce website, mobile app, delivery services, Walmart Plus membership, Scan and Go, as well as its pharmacy and financial services. Every week, that system serves more than 255 million shopping visits. That also means Walmart today isn't just managing merchandise. It's managing one of the largest streams of consumer data in the United States. Walmart has consistently said that its data collection complies with privacy regulations and is used for core business operations. For a company of this size, data is an essential tool for forecasting demand, optimizing the supply chain, reducing out-of-stock items, detecting fraud, and personalizing offers. From a business management standpoint, it's the only way to keep an operation this large running smoothly. And maybe the biggest change isn't that Walmart knows what you buy. Grocery stores have known that for years through purchase records. What's new isn't having more data. What's new is the ability to connect data that once existed separately into a complete picture of your shopping behavior. That's what has led many people to realize that paying with cash no longer necessarily means your entire shopping trip is separate from the data ecosystem you've already become part of. Every time they walk into a store, they aren't just leaving behind cash. They're leaving behind data trails. And as more and more decisions are handed over to data systems, another question begins to emerge. What happens if the system itself makes a mistake? Imagine walking into Walmart with a cart full of groceries and household essentials for your family. Your total comes to more than $400. You swipe your card, and the terminal says the transaction failed. You try again. It fails again. On the fourth attempt, the payment finally goes through. Relieved, you load everything into your car. But when you check your phone, you see a notification from your bank. Your account has been charged all 4 times. Nearly $2,000 is gone in a matter of seconds. This isn't a hypothetical scenario. It's the true story of a mother in Texas after a payment system experienced a connection issue. But the real nightmare wasn't the numbers on her phone. It was everything that happened afterward. She had to return to the store the next day, wait for hours at the customer service desk, and speak with managers who kept shaking their heads and shifting the responsibility to the bank. A missed day of work to deal with the problem, a bank account tied up right before the weekend, and the feeling of helplessness that comes from trying to prove you're right to a system that's almost entirely automated. Years ago, if a supermarket employee made a mistake, that error usually stayed at one checkout lane and affected just one customer. Today, with systems fully synchronized, the biggest difference is the scale of the failure. A small software glitch on a central server doesn't just create one incorrect receipt. It can disrupt the lives of thousands of families at the very same time. In states like Michigan, public concern over scanner accuracy became so significant that lawmakers passed the scanner law. The law was born from hard lessons in the past, when consumers repeatedly found differences between shelf prices and the prices charged at checkout. It requires retailers to compensate customers 10 times the price difference when a scanner overcharges them, as a reminder that machine errors should never become the consumer's burden. Walmart does not deny that technical issues like these can happen in a system that processes billions of transactions every year. The company has established procedures to work with financial institutions so customers can receive refunds as quickly as possible. After all, in a distribution network this massive, eliminating 100% of system errors is nearly impossible for any business. But from the perspective of real people, the story isn't as simple as an error message on a screen. Both consumers and frontline employees are paying an invisible cost, the human cost. When the system fails, cashiers, the people who never wrote the code or operated the servers, are the ones who end up facing customers' frustration. And shoppers, instead of enjoying the convenience of technology, are left doing all the follow-up work themselves, saving every receipt, comparing every bank statement, waiting, explaining, and proving what happened. When every process is handed over to automation, the biggest barrier it creates is the system's lack of humanity. You can't argue with an algorithm, and you can't find empathy in a card reader. And perhaps the scariest part of all is this: the one who makes the mistake isn't always a person, but the one who has to fix it almost always is. But by this point, we've probably realized something much more important. What's happening at Walmart has never really been just about Walmart. It's the direction the entire retail industry is heading. Walmart is simply the biggest company and the easiest one to see. Today, from Walmart and Target to Kroger, Amazon and Costco, retailers are investing heavily in data, artificial intelligence, automation, and digital ecosystems. Each company has chosen a different approach, but the goal is remarkably similar: understand customers better, predict demand more accurately, and operate more efficiently in an increasingly competitive market. If you look closely, you'll notice that nearly every major retail chain is building its own membership ecosystem. Walmart has Walmart Plus. Amazon has Prime. Target has Target Circle. Kroger has its own loyalty program. These programs don't just offer faster delivery or member-only discounts. They also help retailers better understand how customers shop, allowing them to forecast inventory, personalize promotions, and reduce waste throughout the supply chain. Those are very real benefits. But at the same time, they've also brought a major change to the consumer experience. In the past, the price on the shelf was usually the price everyone saw. Today, more and more discounts only appear after customers sign into an app, scan their membership code, or join a loyalty program. The listed price is still there, but the best deals are becoming increasingly tied to each retailer's digital ecosystem. That doesn't mean every company is using personalized pricing, but it does show that retail is moving toward a new model, one where data plays an increasingly important role in how businesses serve their customers. And maybe that's the biggest change of all. Years ago, stores only needed to know what you bought. Today, they want to understand when you usually shop, how you respond to promotions, which products bring you back, and what kind of experience keeps you coming back. That's why data has become one of the most valuable assets in modern retail. Walmart didn't create this trend. It's simply one of the companies pushing it forward faster and on a much larger scale than much of the rest of the industry. And maybe that's what has started making millions of Americans think differently about their weekly grocery trips. The biggest question is no longer, should I stop shopping at Walmart? It's this: in a world where every retailer is increasingly powered by data, how can consumers still stay in control of their own information? Maybe after today, Walmart will still open its doors just like it always does. Shopping carts will still roll down the same familiar aisles. People will still buy milk, bread, and everything they need for their family's dinner. Nothing inside the store may seem any different, but perhaps one thing will change in the way we walk through those doors. For decades, Walmart didn't just sell products at low prices. It also gave millions of Americans a very simple feeling. Shopping was easy, and you could trust it. Technology will keep advancing, and retail will continue to evolve. But one thing has never changed. Trust has always been the foundation of every transaction. And maybe the biggest takeaway from this video isn't whether you'll keep shopping at Walmart. It's that in a world changing this quickly, understanding how things work is still the best way to protect yourself. If there's one thing about the way you shop that will change after watching this video, what will it be? Let us know in the comments.